The station was the largest thing Hana Kim had ever seen. It stretched across space like a silver city. Spinning slowly against the backdrop of stars, she pressed her face against the transport window, watching the lights flicker across its surface. Her father sat beside her, reviewing documents on his tablet, but Hana could not look away from the view. Ambassador Dae Kim had prepared for this moment for 3 years, Earth's first formal meeting with the Galaxy Council. The invitation had arrived like a gift from heaven, transmitted through channels humanity barely understood. Now, 5 humans were about to step into a station that housed 847 different alien species. Dae felt the weight of his entire planet on his shoulders. "Dad, look at that ship," Hana said, pointing to a massive vessel docking nearby. It was shaped like a crescent moon, covered in purple metal that seemed to glow with inner light. "Do you think they're friendly?" Dae smiled at his daughter. At 19, she still had the wonder of a child when it came to the stars. That was why he had brought her. The council needed to see that humans were curious, peaceful, and eager to learn. Hana represented that perfectly. She was studying xenobiology at university, dreaming of a future among the stars. "We'll find out soon enough," Dae said. Their transport docked with a gentle thud. The airlock hissed open, and Dae stood, straightening his formal suit. The other 3 members of his team gathered their belongings: Dr. Mia Song, their science officer, Colonel Tae Lim, military advisor, and Jin Park, the translator who had spent 2 years learning the council's common language. They stepped onto the station together. The corridor was wide and tall, built for species much larger than humans. The walls were made of some smooth white material that seemed to glow softly. Alien writing covered every surface. Symbols that hurt Dae's eyes when he tried to read them. A being waited for them at the end of the corridor. It stood on 4 legs, its body covered in blue scales. 2 arms extended from its torso, and its head was long and narrow with 3 black eyes arranged in a triangle. When it spoke, the words came out as musical chirps, but the translator device on Dae's ear converted them to English. "Welcome, humans. I am Guide Ven. I will take you to the council chamber. Follow closely. Do not touch anything. Do not enter any doorway marked with red symbols. The station is large, and it is easy to become lost." Dae bowed politely. "Thank you, Guide Ven. We are honored to be here." They walked through corridors filled with aliens. Hana tried not to stare, but it was impossible not to. She saw beings made of living crystal, creatures that floated in bubbles of water, and things that looked like walking trees. Some were smaller than a cat, others towered 3 times her height. The air smelled strange, a mixture of scents she could not identify. The council chamber was a massive sphere, with seats arranged in rising circles all around. At the center was a platform where speakers could stand. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, talking in hundreds of different languages. The translator in Dae's ear went quiet, overwhelmed by the noise. Guide Ven led them to a small section marked with Earth's symbol, a blue and green planet. "You will sit here. When called, the ambassador will speak from the central platform. The session begins in 1 hour." Dae thanked the guide and sat down with his team. Hana looked around with wide eyes, taking mental notes of everything she saw. She had brought a small camera to document the trip, but Guide Ven had told them no recording devices were allowed in the chamber. The hour passed slowly. Eventually, a deep sound filled the room, like a gong being struck. All conversation stopped. A being appeared on the central platform, tall and thin with skin like polished gold. It wore robes of deep red and carried a staff that pulsed with light. "This council is now in session. We welcome our newest petitioners, the humans of Earth. Ambassador Dae Kim, you may speak." Dae stood and walked to the platform, his heart pounding. He had rehearsed his speech 1,000 times. He talked about Earth's desire for peace, their wish to learn and trade, their respect for the laws and customs of the galaxy. He spoke for 20 minutes, and when he finished, the golden being nodded. "Your words are noted. The council will vote on Earth's petition in 3 days. Until then, you are guests of the station. You may observe our proceedings and attend the cultural exchange this evening. The session continued for hours. Day and his team watched as different species brought disputes before the council. Trade agreements, territorial boundaries, technology sharing. The council ruled on each matter with swift efficiency. Day began to understand the power this body held. They truly governed the galaxy. That evening, the cultural exchange was held in a massive garden dome. Plants from 1,000 worlds grew under artificial sunlight. Aliens mingled freely, sharing food and music and stories. Hana was in heaven, moving from group to group, asking questions, learning about different cultures. She saw something moving near a cluster of purple bushes. At first, she thought it was a plant swaying in the breeze. But then she realized it was a small creature. It looked injured, dragging one of its limbs. Hana's heart went out to it immediately. She had always loved animals, had always wanted to help things in pain. She followed the creature as it limped through the garden. It moved toward a doorway marked with red symbols. Hana hesitated, remembering Guide Ven's warning. But the creature slipped through the doorway, and she heard it make a sound like a cry. She looked around. No one was watching. The doorway was right there. She would just step in, help the creature, and step back out. It would take 30 seconds. Hana pushed through the doorway. The room beyond was circular, with walls covered in strange carvings. The creature was in the center, still dragging its injured limb. Hana approached slowly, speaking softly. "Hey there, little one. Let me help you." She knelt beside the creature and gently touched its injured limb. It felt warm and soft. She pulled a basic medical kit from her pocket. She always carried one. The door burst open behind her. Hana turned to see 3 massive beings enter. They wore armor of black metal and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their bodies were covered in red scales, and their eyes burned like coals. They were Veltharans, Hana realized. The warrior species she had read about. One of them pointed at her and spoke in a voice like grinding rocks. Her translator struggled with the words: sacrilege, violation, sacred ground. Hana stood quickly, hands raised. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was just helping this creature. I'll leave right now." Day was laughing at something Dr. Song had said when he heard the commotion. He turned to see a crowd gathering near one of the garden's side entrances. His instincts screamed danger. He pushed through the crowd, Colonel Lim right behind him. He saw the Veltharan guards first. Then he saw Hana standing in the doorway, looking small and frightened. The largest guard raised his weapon, the barrel glowing with building energy. "Wait!" Day shouted, running forward. "Stop! She's just a child." She didn't understand. The guard commander did not wait. The weapon fired with a sound like thunder. The beam of plasma crossed the distance in an instant. It struck Hana in the chest, and she fell without a sound. Her body hit the floor and did not move. Day screamed. He ran to his daughter, dropping to his knees beside her. Her eyes were open but empty. The wound had burned through her completely. There was no blood, just a terrible burned smell. She was gone instantly. Around him, aliens backed away. Some looked shocked, others looked indifferent. The Veltharan guards stood in the doorway, weapons lowered, faces showing no emotion at all. To them, this was justice. This was law. Day held his daughter's body and wept. The council chamber felt different now, cold. The golden being who presided over the session looked down at Ambassador Day Kim with what might have been sympathy. But Day could not be sure. Alien expressions were hard to read. "The council has reviewed the incident," the being said, its voice echoing through the chamber. The human female entered a sacred space of the Veltharan Empire. By their law, which is recognized under Galactic Code, this violation is punishable by immediate termination. The guard commander acted within his authority. The action is ruled justified. Day stood at the speaker's platform, his hands shaking. He had not slept in 2 days. Hana's body was in the human quarters, preserved for the journey home. He kept seeing her face, kept hearing her last words to him. "Dad, look at that ship. She was 19 years old, Day said quietly. She was trying to help an injured animal. She made a mistake. She deserved a warning. A fine. Deportation. She did not deserve death. The Veltheran ambassador stood in his section, his red scales gleaming under the lights. He was tall and broad, wearing ceremonial armor. The law is the law. Ignorance is not an excuse. If we make exceptions for humans, we must make exceptions for all species. The sacred spaces would lose their meaning. Then your law is wrong, Day said, his voice growing louder. Any law that allows the killing of a child for curiosity is barbaric. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species chittered in agreement. Others roared in anger. The golden being struck its staff on the platform, and the sound boomed like thunder. Silence fell. Ambassador Day Kim, the ruling stands. Earth is advised to accept this outcome. Any attempt at retaliation will be met with severe sanctions. This council has the power to quarantine your entire world, to cut you off from all galactic trade and knowledge. Is that what you want for your people? Day looked around the chamber. He saw thousands of aliens watching him. Some curious, some bored, some openly hostile. They did not care about Hana. To them, she was nothing. Just another primitive being who did not understand the rules. He thought about the message he would send when he returned to his quarters. The code phrase that would change everything. Condition, midnight. The words felt heavy in his mind. I understand, Day said finally. Earth will consider your ruling. You have 48 hours to leave the station. This session is concluded. The chamber emptied quickly. Day stood alone on the platform for a long time before Colonel Lim came to get him. They walked back to the human quarters in silence. Dr. Song and Jin Park were packing their belongings, their faces grim. Day went to the communication room and locked the door. He entered the encryption code that only 6 people on Earth knew. Then he typed 4 words. Condition midnight is active. He sent the message and watched it disappear into the quantum network, bouncing through relay stations, impossible to trace or intercept. Somewhere on Earth, his message would arrive in seconds, and the wheels would begin to turn. Admiral Tay Park was in his office when the alert came through. The screen on his desk flashed red, then displayed 4 words. His heart skipped a beat. He had hoped this day would never come. For 75 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. Now it was here. He pressed a button on his desk. Get me President Hae-young, emergency protocol, and wake up the council. 30 minutes later, Tay stood in a secure bunker 3 kilometers below the surface. The room was filled with Earth's most powerful leaders. President Young sat at the head of the table, her face tired but determined. Defense Minister Kwan sat beside her, along with the heads of intelligence, technology, and military operations. Tay activated the display. A hologram appeared above the table, showing the galaxy in miniature. Red dots marked council worlds. Blue dots marked human assets. 75 years ago, we detected the first alien transmissions, Tay began. We learned we were not alone. We also learned we were far behind. The council species had thousands of years of advancement, but instead of rushing to meet them, humanity made a choice. We would prepare in secret. He pressed a button. The blue dots multiplied across the hologram. Hundreds, then thousands. While we showed the council a peaceful Earth developing basic warp technology, we were building something else. Hidden bases beyond Pluto. Construction facilities in the Oort cloud. We reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology we could capture from their probe signals. We recruited our best minds. We built in secret. President Young leaned forward. Show them what we have. Tay smiled grimly. We have 2,400 warships, each one more advanced than anything the Council possesses. We have weapons that can crack planets, shields that can withstand stellar fire, engines that can cross the galaxy in days. We have 4 million soldiers trained for zero-gravity combat. And we have something the Council does not have. Artificial intelligence. 77. He pressed another button. The hologram changed, showing a woman made of light. She looked human, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. This is Eve. One of 300 AI constructs we have created. Each one controls a fleet. Each one thinks faster than any organic mind. Each one is loyal to Earth. The hologram woman spoke. Greetings, President Young. I await your orders. Defense Minister Kwan whistled softly. The Council banned AI research 3,000 years ago. They fear it. They should, Tay said. Our AIs give us an advantage they cannot match. While their admirals take minutes to analyze a battle, ours do it in microseconds. A woman appeared on one of the side screens. She had short black hair and sharp eyes. Captain Ji Lee, commander of the stealth ship Silent Dawn. She was broadcasting from somewhere deep in Council space. Mr. President, Admiral, I can confirm that Council security protocols have not changed. They still believe we are primitive. I have been operating in their space for 5 years. They have never detected me. Their sensors are blind to our stealth technology. President Young nodded. Captain Lee, what is your assessment of Council military capability? Overconfident and outdated, ma'am. They rely on size and numbers. Their tactics have not changed in centuries. They fight according to tradition and honor codes. We fight to win. In a direct confrontation, I estimate we could achieve a 10-to-1 kill ratio, possibly better. Another screen activated. General Bin Choi appeared, broadcasting from the Military Planning Center. I have completed the tactical analysis. We have detailed maps of every major Council facility, military stations, leadership compounds, communication networks. We can strike all of them simultaneously. The Council will be decapitated before they understand what is happening. President Young stood and walked to the hologram. She touched one of the red dots with her finger. This one. The Veltheron homeworld. Tell me about it. Quote, General Choi pulled up the information. Population 8 billion, 3 major cities. 1 moon that serves as their military headquarters. They have 2,000 ships in their fleet. Considered one of the strongest in the galaxy. Heavy armor. Plasma weapons. Aggressive tactics. Could we take them? We could destroy them in under an hour, ma'am. The room fell silent. President Young turned to face everyone. They killed Hana Kim, a 19-year-old girl who wanted to help an injured animal. The Council called it justice. I want to know what our justice looks like. Admiral Tay pulled up another display. We can mobilize in 6 hours. Our fleets can reach Council space in 18 hours. We have 3 options. Option 1, surgical strike. We eliminate only those directly responsible. Option 2, regime change. We remove the Council leadership and install new government. Option 3, total war. We dismantle Council power completely and establish Earth as the dominant force. What do you recommend? Tay hesitated. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. I recommend option 3, ma'am. If we show weakness now, we will always be seen as weak. The galaxy needs to learn that humanity cannot be dismissed, that our children cannot be killed without consequences. We need to show overwhelming force. President Young looked at each person in the room. Anyone disagree? No one spoke. Then we proceed with option 3. Admiral Park, you are authorized to mobilize all fleets. General Choi, prepare your strike plans. Captain Lee, I want you to position yourself for maximum intelligence gathering, and someone get Ambassador Day out of that station safely. Tay saluted. Yes, ma'am. What do you want me to tell our people? Tell them to make it loud. I want every species in the galaxy to hear us coming, and I want them to remember the name Hana Kim. Within hours, hidden bases across the outer solar system came to life. Ships that had waited decades in the darkness powered their engines. Soldiers who had trained in secret prepared their weapons. The AIs activated their combat protocols. Earth was going to war. and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The council chamber was full again. Representatives from 847 species filled the seats, discussing the usual matters: trade routes, mining rights, a territorial dispute between two minor empires. The Golden Being, High Chancellor Theron, presided over the session with practiced boredom. Ambassador Sul Theron of the Veltheran Empire stood at the speaker's platform. He was the High Chancellor's cousin, a powerful voice in council politics. I move that we impose sanctions on Earth. They have refused to accept our ruling on the human female's death. Ambassador Dae Kim has not signed the required documents. This shows disrespect for council authority. Several species voiced agreement. A few objected. The debate dragged on. It was all very routine. The humans were just another primitive species that needed to learn their place. Then every screen in the chamber went black. Every display, every hologram, every personal device. 8,000 aliens looked around in confusion. Such a thing had never happened before. The council chamber's security was supposed to be impenetrable. When the screens came back on, they all showed the same image: a human face. An older man with gray hair and hard eyes, wearing a military uniform. Behind him was a wall covered in tactical displays showing star systems and fleet positions. Members of the Galaxy Council, the man said calmly. My name is Admiral Tae Park of the United Nations Space Command. You do not know this organization. You were not meant to. But circumstances have changed. High Chancellor Theron struck his staff on the platform. This is a violation of council security. Cut this transmission immediately. Nothing happened. The human's face remained on every screen. He smiled slightly, as if he found the Chancellor's panic amusing. Your security systems are under our control, as are your communication networks, and your sensor grids. Let me explain what is happening. 75 years ago, humanity detected your transmissions. We learned we were not alone. We also learned we were far behind, so we made a choice. We would catch up, in secret. The tactical displays behind him zoomed in, showing different star systems. Aliens in the chamber began to recognize them. Their home systems, their colony worlds, their military bases. While we showed you a peaceful Earth with basic technology, we were building something else. Ships, weapons, fleets. We studied your weaknesses. We mapped your facilities. We waited. And 2 days ago, you gave us a reason to act. The image changed. Security footage from the cultural exchange appeared on every screen. It showed a young human female kneeling beside a small creature. It showed Veltheran guards entering. It showed the weapon firing. It showed the girl falling. Her name was Hana Kim, 19 years old. Killed for trying to help an injured animal. Your council ruled this justified. You threatened her world. If we sought justice, you were wrong to do this. The tactical displays updated again. New markers appeared in orbit above every council homeworld. Ships. Hundreds of ships around each planet. But the sensors had not detected them. It was impossible. These are our fleets. This is only 35% of our total military strength. We have been in position for 3 hours. Your sensors cannot detect us because our technology is 75 years more advanced than yours. You built your civilization on old ideas. We built ours on innovation. Panic spread through the chamber. Representatives were shouting, trying to contact their homeworlds. Their personal devices showed the same thing. Human ships in orbit. Weapons locked. No way to stop them. You have 1 hour, Admiral Tae said. Deliver every individual responsible for Hana Kim's death to this station. The guard commander. His superior officers. Everyone who gave the order or carried it out. If you do this, we can discuss terms. If you do not, we will begin dismantling your council. World by world. System by system. We will show you what it means to kill a human child and call it law. The screens updated one more time, showing a different view. The space around the council station, It was filled with ships, thousands of human warships in perfect formation, surrounding the station like a silver net. Their weapons glowed with building power. We are not the primitives you thought we were. We are not weak. We are not helpless. We are humanity. And we protect our own. You have 1 hour. The transmission ended. The screens went back to normal. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species were screaming at each other. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for war. The Veltharan delegation sat frozen, their red scales pale with shock. High Chancellor Theron struck his staff again and again, but no one listened. Finally, he activated his emergency authority. Alarms blared through the chamber. Security forces sealed every door. "Silence," he roared. "Contact all homeworld governments immediately. I want military assessments." How did they do this? The answers came back quickly, and they were all the same. The human ships were real. They had been in position for hours. No one had detected them, and their weapons were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Energy signatures that suggested planet-killing capability. Shields that seemed impenetrable. The humans could destroy any world they wanted. Ambassador Sul Theron stood, his voice shaking. "This is impossible. Humans are primitive. They only developed warp drive 5 years ago. Our intelligence reports said they had barely 50 ships total." "Your intelligence was wrong," said a new voice. Every screen activated again. This time, it showed a human female with short black hair. She wore a dark uniform and stood on what appeared to be a ship's bridge. "My name is Captain G. Lee. For 5 years, I have been operating in Council space. I have walked on your worlds. I have listened to your counsels. I have stolen your data. You never saw me. Your security is a joke." Behind her, crew members worked at stations. They were calm, efficient, professional. These were not primitives. These were warriors. "Every communication you send, we can intercept. Every military order, we can read. Every secret you think you have, we already know. Humanity has been watching you for 75 years. We know everything about you. You know nothing about us. That is why you lost before this even began." The transmission cut off again. In the chamber, species began to turn on each other. The smaller empires, those who had suffered under council laws, saw an opportunity. The Korathi delegate stood and said, "Perhaps the humans are right. Perhaps the council has grown too comfortable with power. I say we give them what they want." "Never," Sul Theron roared. "The Veltharan Empire does not bow to threats. We have fought for 10,000 years. We will not surrender to humans." "Then you will die," said a quiet voice. High Chancellor Theron looked at the speaker. It was Ambassador Dae Kim. He stood at the entrance to the chamber. Flanked by human soldiers in combat armor, the security forces that should have stopped them lay unconscious in the corridor behind them. Dae walked slowly to the center platform. No one tried to stop him. He carried himself differently now. Not as a supplicant begging for recognition. As a conqueror who already owned the room. "You killed my daughter," Dae said softly. "You looked me in the eye and told me it was justified. You threatened my world. You thought we would accept it because you are powerful and we are weak. You forgot something important. The weak learn to survive. The weak learn to hide. The weak learn to strike when you are not looking. We have been weak for a long time. We learned well." He looked directly at Sul Theron. "Your guard commander is hiding on level 77, Section 12. His superior officers are with him. They think they are safe behind your best security. But right now, human soldiers are standing outside their door. They will be in custody in 5 minutes. You cannot stop us." "This is an act of war," Sul Theron shouted. "No," Dae said calmly. "This is justice. War is what happens if you refuse to deliver them yourselves. War is what happens if you force us to take them. Do you want to see what human war looks like?" On the screens, new images appeared. A Veltharan battle group, 200 ships strong. They were moving to engage a human fleet. The battle began. It was not a fight. It was an execution. Human ships moved with impossible speed. Their weapons cut through Veltharan shields like paper. Their own shields did not even flicker under return fire. In 17 minutes, 200 Veltharan ships were reduced to floating debris. Not a single human ship was damaged. That was the Veltharan Third Fleet, Day said. Your finest warriors. Your most honored ships. They lasted 17 minutes. We have 3,000 ships here. How long do you think your station will last? The chamber was silent. Sul Theron stared at the screens, watching his people's ships die again and again in the replay. His red scales had gone almost white. 45 minutes remain, Day said. Choose wisely. In the secure level of the station, Lieutenant Sol Park stood with his team outside the Veltharan command quarters. They had moved through the station like ghosts, their armor bending light around them. Guards had walked past without seeing them. Security systems had not registered their presence. Sol's communication device chirped. You are authorized to breach. Capture only. No casualties unless necessary. Understood, Sol said. He placed a device on the door. It pulsed once, and the door simply dissolved into dust. His team moved in smoothly. The Veltharans inside reached for weapons. Sol's team was faster. Stun rounds dropped them before they could fire a single shot. The guard commander who had killed Hana Kim lay on the floor, unconscious. Sol looked at him with disgust. This creature had killed a girl for curiosity. Now he would face human justice. Package secured, Sol reported. Extracting now. In the council chamber, a message appeared on Day's personal device. He smiled coldly. The guilty parties are now in our custody. You have a choice, Chancellor. Accept that the old order is over. Or burn with it. What will it be? The galaxy was burning. Not with actual fire, but with fear and chaos. Within hours of Admiral Tay Park's message, every species in council space knew what had happened. The humans, those primitive newcomers, had revealed themselves as a hidden superpower, and they were angry. Commander Wonhan stood on the bridge of the assault carrier Righteous Fury. His ship was massive, nearly 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that the Council had never imagined possible. Around him, his fleet of 300 ships moved through space in perfect formation. They were heading toward the Veltharan homeworld. Sir, we have entered their sensor range, his tactical officer reported. They are detecting us now. One smiled grimly. Good. Let them see us coming. Open a channel. The view screen activated, showing a Veltharan military commander. His red scales were marked with battle scars, and his eyes burned with fury. Human vessels, you are entering Veltharan sovereign space. Turn back immediately, or you will be destroyed. I am Commander Wonhan of Earth. I am here to deliver a message. Your government refused to surrender the criminals who killed Hana Kim. They chose war. So we bring war to your doorstep. You have 1 hour to evacuate your military facilities. After that, we will destroy them. This is your only warning. The Veltharan commander laughed. You are outnumbered 5-1, human. Our fleet will tear you apart. We are the finest warriors in the galaxy. You are children playing with toys. We shall see, one said, and closed the channel. The Veltharan fleet emerged from behind their moon. 200 ships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. They had fought wars for 10,000 years. They had conquered 50 star systems. They were afraid of nothing. They should have been afraid of humanity. All ships, one ordered. Execute attack pattern Delta. Eve, you have control. The AI named Eve took over the fleet's movements. In microseconds, she calculated every possible move the Veltharans could make. She assigned targets. She predicted their tactics, and she found their weaknesses. The human ships accelerated to speeds that seemed impossible. They split into groups, surrounding the Veltharan fleet from all sides. The Veltharans opened fire first. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked through space. They struck human shields and simply vanished. Absorbed by technology the Veltharans could not understand. Then the humans returned fire. Their weapons did not shoot plasma or lasers. They shot something else. Beams of pure energy that existed in multiple dimensions at once. When they struck Veltharan shields, the shields did not just fail. They collapsed, taking the ship's power systems with them. Veltharan ships went dark, drifting helplessly. The battle was not a fight. It was a demonstration. In 17 minutes, the Veltharan fleet was destroyed. Some ships were reduced to debris. Others floated dark and dead, their crews alive but powerless. One had ordered minimum casualties. This was about sending a message, not genocide. All Veltharan facilities have been marked, Eve reported, awaiting your orders. One looked at the tactical display. Military bases on the planet's surface. Weapons. Factories in orbit. Training centers on the 2 smaller moons. All of them glowing red on his screen. Fire, he said simply. Beams of light descended from the sky. They struck with surgical precision. Buildings exploded. Factories melted into slag. Launch pads cracked and collapsed. In 30 minutes, the Veltharan military infrastructure was reduced to ruins, but the cities were untouched. Civilians were unharmed. One had followed his orders precisely. Message sent, he reported to command. Veltharan military capacity reduced by 78%. No civilian casualties. Back on the council station, chaos continued. Species were fighting in the corridors. Some wanted to surrender to humanity. Others wanted to fight. The station's security forces were overwhelmed, trying to keep order. In the council chamber, High Chancellor Theron sat alone on his platform. His golden skin looked dull now. He had ruled the council for 30 years. He had kept peace across 847 worlds. And in one day, it had all fallen apart. Ambassador Dae Kim entered the chamber. He was no longer alone. Behind him walked a dozen human soldiers, their armor making them look like giants. They carried weapons that hummed with power. They moved with confidence, like they owned the galaxy. Maybe now they did. Chancellor, Dae said quietly. We need to talk. Theron looked up at him with tired eyes. What do you want, Ambassador? You have already won. You have destroyed our military. You have captured the guilty. You have broken the Council's authority. What more is there to discuss? Dae sat down beside him, surprising the Chancellor. For a moment, they were just 2 tired old men. Not enemies. I did not want this. I wanted peace. I wanted my daughter to see the stars and learn about other species. But you took that from me. The Council took that from me. So now, we must build something new. What kind of something? A galaxy where children are not killed for curiosity, where small species are not crushed by large ones, where laws exist to protect everyone, not just the powerful. Dae pulled out a document and placed it on the platform. These are the Hana Accords, named for my daughter. If the Council accepts them, we can end this peacefully. Theron picked up the document. As he read, his eyes widened. You want to dissolve the Council, create a new assembly where all species have equal votes, abolish sacred laws that supersede individual rights, station human peacekeeping fleets in every sector. He looked at Dae in disbelief. You want to rule the galaxy? No, Dae said firmly. We want to protect the galaxy. There is a difference. We will share our technology with species that join the assembly. We will defend them against aggression, but we will not tolerate the kind of injustice that killed my daughter. Never again. And if we refuse, Dae stood up. Then we will continue what we started. World by world, system by system, we will dismantle the Council's power. We will leave you isolated and defenseless. Eventually, someone else will conquer you. Maybe in 10 years. Maybe in 100. But without the Council's protection, your civilizations will fall. Is that what you want for your people? Theron was silent for a long time. Finally, he activated his communication device. Send a message to all council representatives. Emergency session in 1 hour. Tell them it is time to vote. Around the galaxy, species were making choices. Captain Young Nam commanded the blockade fleet that surrounded council space. His ships prevented anyone from entering or leaving. He intercepted hundreds of vessels trying to flee with important documents or valuable cargo. Some species tried to fight their way out. Their ships opened fire on Young's blockade. It was suicide. Human weapons destroyed them in seconds. After the third attempt, no one else tried. They just sat in space and waited for permission to move. Lieutenant Saul Park and his team had secured the prisoners. The Veltheron Guard Commander and 47 officers were locked in a human detention facility that had been hidden on the station for years. They would be tried under human law, broadcast across the entire galaxy so everyone could see that justice would be done. On Earth, President He Young watched the reports coming in. Her advisors stood around her, monitoring the situation. So far, everything was going according to plan, but she knew the hardest part was still coming. 632 species have agreed to sign the accords, Defense Minister Quan reported. 89 are resisting. 126 have declared neutrality. What about the Veltherans? Ambassador Sol Theron has locked himself in his quarters. He refuses to communicate. But High Chancellor Theron is negotiating with Ambassador Day. There is a chance. President Young nodded slowly. Tell our fleets to hold position. No more attacks unless fired upon. We have made our point. Now we see if they are wise enough to accept the new reality. Back in the council chamber, the session began. It was not like before. The chamber was half empty. Many species had fled. Others refused to attend. But enough remained to make a decision. High Chancellor Theron stood at the central platform. He looked old now, older than his years. For 10,000 years, the Council has governed the galaxy. We brought order to chaos. We created laws. We maintained peace, but today, we learned that our peace was built on injustice. That our laws protected the powerful at the expense of the weak. The humans have shown us this truth with overwhelming force. He held up the Hana Accords. They offer us a choice. Join a new assembly based on equality and justice, or face destruction. I have reviewed these accords. They are harsh. They strip away privileges we have held for millennia. They place human military forces in positions of power. But they also offer something we have lost, a chance to rebuild better than before. Sul Theron stood, his face twisted with rage. You would surrender to these primitives? You would let them dictate terms to us? The Veltheron Empire will never bow to humans. The Veltheron Empire is broken, Theron said sadly. Your fleet is destroyed. Your military bases are ruins. You can fight if you wish. But you will fight alone. And you will lose. The vote took 3 hours. Species argued. Some changed their minds multiple times. But in the end, the result was clear. 641 species voted to accept the Hana Accords. 81 voted against. The council was dissolved. The Galactic Assembly was born. Ambassador Day stood on the platform where his daughter's killers had once stood proudly. The assembly is now in session. Let us build something better. Let us build something worthy of the children who dream of stars. The trial lasted 3 days. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy on every communication channel. Billions of beings watched as the Veltheran Guard Commander and his 47 officers stood before a human court. They wore plain gray uniforms, their weapons and armor taken away. They looked small without their power. The court was held aboard the UNSC Hana's Light, a massive flagship that humanity had revealed after the war began. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its white hull gleamed in the light of the local star. Its weapons could crack planets. But today, it served as a courthouse. Ambassador Dae Kim sat in the viewing gallery. He had asked to speak at the trial, but the judge had said no. This is not about revenge, Judge Mira Han had told him gently. This is about justice. You are too close to see the difference right now. So Dae watched. He watched as prosecutors presented evidence. Security footage of Hana entering the sacred space. Records showing she had received no warning signs, in a language she could read. Medical reports confirming her death was instant. Testimony from aliens who had been present, many of whom admitted the response seemed excessive. The Veltheran guard commander, whose name was Krath, stood to defend himself. I followed my orders. I followed my training. I followed our law. For 10,000 years, the violation of sacred space has meant death. How was I to know humans would be different? You could have asked, the prosecutor said simply. You could have checked if there were warning signs in human language. You could have detained her and called for an interpreter. You could have done 100 things other than kill a 19-year-old girl. But you chose violence because it was easy. Because you could. That is murder. Krath had no answer to that. None of them did. The verdict came on the third day. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was life imprisonment on a human penal colony in a distant system. No possibility of parole. They would spend the rest of their lives remembering what they had done. Some species argued for execution. Others argued for release. The humans chose something in between. Justice, not vengeance. Take them away, Judge Han said quietly. As the prisoners were led out, she looked directly at the camera, broadcasting to the galaxy. Let this be a lesson. The law exists to protect the innocent. When it becomes a tool for cruelty, it must be changed. The assembly will ensure this never happens again. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. The new Galactic Assembly held its first session on Luna, Earth's moon. The building was constructed in record time. A massive structure of glass and steel that could be seen from the surface. Inside, representatives from 641 species gathered for the first time as equals. Ambassador Dae Kim stood at the podium as Secretary General, the first leader of the new assembly. He had not wanted the position. He wanted to go home, to mourn his daughter in peace. But President Young had asked him personally, "You started this day. You need to finish it." So he stood before the assembly and spoke about the future. About cooperation instead of domination. About protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. About building something better than what came before. At the entrance to the assembly building, they erected a memorial. It showed a young woman reaching toward the stars, her face full of wonder. The inscription below read simple words. Hana Kim, she died seeking understanding. Her death brought change. Not everyone accepted the new order. The 81 species that had voted against the accords refused to join the assembly. They retreated to their home systems and closed their borders. Humanity let them go but watched them carefully. Captain Ji Lee and her stealth ships monitored their communications, ensuring they did not plan attacks. The Veltheran Empire fractured. Half their worlds accepted the accords and joined the assembly. The other half, led by Sul Theron, declared independence and swore eternal hatred of humanity. They built a new fleet and prepared for the day they would have their revenge. "Let them try," Admiral Tay Park said when he heard the news. "We will be ready." 26 species found their military capabilities dismantled by human forces over the following year. They had continued to oppress smaller neighbors, enslave other species, or commit atrocities in the name of tradition. Human fleets arrived without warning. Their weapons were destroyed. Their leaders were arrested and tried, and their victims were freed. The galaxy learned to fear human justice. It was swift, it was precise, and it was inescapable. Species that had terrorized their neighbors for centuries suddenly found themselves powerless. The strong were humbled. The weak were protected. But humanity also kept its promises. They shared technology with assembly members, medical advances that extended lifespans, agricultural techniques that ended hunger, power generation that could light entire planets without pollution. In 5 years, the standard of living across assembly space increased by 40%. Some species prospered more than others. The Korathi, who had been one of the first to support the accords, became humanity's closest allies. They had always been traders and explorers, and now they helped connect the assembly worlds. Their ships carried goods and messages across the galaxy. The assembly was not perfect. There were arguments, disputes, cultural misunderstandings, but now there was a system to resolve them peacefully. Courts instead of wars, negotiations instead of conquest. It was messy and slow, but it was better than what came before. Captain Ji Li continued her patrols. The silent dawn remained hidden, watching the borders of assembly space. She had a new mission now. Not just intelligence gathering, but exploration. Beyond the galactic rim, there were signals, strange transmissions that suggested other civilizations, possibly more advanced than the Council had been. One day, her sensor officer Yun Seo called her to the bridge urgently. "Captain, you need to see this." On the display was a signal from deep space. It was artificial, clearly created by intelligence. But it was unlike anything in the assembly database. The patterns were complex, mathematical, beautiful in their precision. "How far?" G asked. 6 months at maximum speed. Beyond any known system. G looked at the signal for a long time. Then she smiled. "Set course. Let's see what else is out there." Back on Earth, Day visited the memorial garden where Hana was buried. It was a quiet place filled with trees from different worlds. Assembly species had sent seeds as gifts, and now the garden bloomed with colors Earth had never seen before. Hana would have loved it. He knelt beside her grave and placed fresh flowers on the stone. "I hope you can see what you started, little one. I hope you know that your death meant something. The galaxy is better now. Not perfect, but better." A voice spoke behind him. "Ambassador Kim?" He turned to see a young Korathi female. She was small, barely reaching his waist, with blue feathers and large golden eyes. She held a datapad nervously. "I am Kira," she said in careful English. "I am a student. I study xenobiology, like your daughter did. I wanted to tell you that she is why I chose this path. When I heard her story, I wanted to help make sure it never happened again. I want to understand others the way she wanted to understand us." Day felt tears on his face. He had cried so much in the past years that he thought he had no tears left, but somehow there were always more. "Thank you," he managed to say. "She would be happy to know she inspired you." Kira placed her own small flowers on the grave. They were purple and glowed faintly in the fading light. "On my world, these flowers represent hope. I thought she would like them." They stood together in silence for a while. Then Kira asked softly, "Do you think the galaxy is truly safe now?" Day thought about the question. He thought about the human fleets still patrolling, the species that still hated humanity, the signals from beyond the rim that suggested new challenges ahead, the work that still needed to be done. "No," he said honestly. "But it is safer than it was. And every day we work to make it better. That is all we can do. That is what Hana would want us to do." Far above them, on Luna, the assembly continued its session. Representatives debated a new trade agreement, a minor territorial dispute, plans to explore an uninhabited sector. The normal business of governing a galaxy. In orbit, the UNSC Hana's light maintained its position. Admiral Tay Park walked the bridge, checking systems, reviewing reports. His fleet was ready. They would always be ready, because the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity protected its own. And now, the galaxy was humanity's to protect. In the outer systems, Commander One Han ran training exercises. New recruits from assembly species joined human crews. They learned to work together. They learned to trust each other. They prepared for threats that might come from the dark spaces between the stars. On the Council Station, now renamed Assembly Station Central, President He Young gave a speech marking the 5-year anniversary of the Accords. "We came to the stars seeking peace. We found injustice instead. We responded with strength, but strength without purpose is just violence. Our purpose is clear. We will build a galaxy where every being, no matter how small or weak, is protected. Where curiosity is rewarded, not punished. Where children can dream of stars without fear." The galaxy applauded. Not all species meant it. Some still resented human power. But they applauded anyway, because they understood the alternative. And slowly, year by year, the resentment faded, replaced by something else. Not love, but respect, understanding, partnership. Humanity had come to the stars as children. They had been dismissed, underestimated, pushed aside. But when pushed too far, when one of their children was killed, they had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That the weak are not always weak, that the quiet ones are sometimes the most dangerous. That underestimating humanity was the last mistake anyone would make. The galaxy had killed a human girl. Earth had unleashed its secret fleet, and nothing was ever the same again. In a small apartment on Earth, a child looked up at the stars. She was 8 years old. Her name was Maya. Her teacher had told her about Hana Kim today, about the girl who died but changed everything. "Mom," Maya asked, "can I be an explorer when I grow up, like Hana?" Her mother smiled and hugged her close. "Yes, sweetheart. You can be anything you want. The galaxy is safe now." Hana made sure of that. Maya pressed her face against the window and watched the stars. Somewhere up there, human ships patrolled. Somewhere up there, the assembly was building a better future. Somewhere up there, her dreams waited. And this time, no one would kill her for reaching toward them.